So the latest chapter in the Kyle Rittenhouse saga is set to begin. According to NPR, a lawsuit can proceed against Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse, a federal judge rules. Apparently they got it from the Associated Press, February 1st. Madison, Wisconsin, a federal judge in Wisconsin ruled Wednesday that a wrongful death lawsuit filed by the father of a man shot and killed by Kyle Rittenhouse during a protest in 2020 could proceed against Rittenhouse, police officers, and others. The father of Anthony Huber, one of two men shot and killed by Rittenhouse, filed the lawsuit in 2021, accusing officers of allowing for a dangerous situation that violated his son's constitutional rights and resulted in his death. Anthony Huber's father, John Huber, also alleged that Rittenhouse, who was 17 at the time of the shootings, conspired with law enforcement to cause harm to protesters. John Huber is seeking unspecified damages from city officials, officers, and Rittenhouse. It's interesting that, again, we come back to, okay, now we're going to say that the city handled it wrong. If the city had went in and done what would have been necessary to stop that riot, it's extremely likely that his son, could have easily have been killed. Especially because, as I've demonstrated on this channel multiple times in multiple videos that I will put, in the description afterwards, Kenosha was not peaceful. And there were armed protesters, including, ironically, with AR-15s, who took shots at, police Bearcats and stuff. This was not in any way a peaceful protest, not even slightly. And there were a lot of out-of-state actors that were there causing problems. Despite the obsession with the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines, nobody talks about the fact that over 100 rioters were arrested from out of state, some from as far away as Oregon. But anyway, Anthony Huber's father also had some pretty goofy beliefs about the situation. I did a video about that. He's under the impression that Kyle, chased Anthony Huber down. You guys can check that out in my history. But at the end of the day, nobody would have been happy with this, short of we just let them burn down the city. There was no, plausible solution to people on the left about this issue, short of just let people riot. We're trying to stop police from killing black men, so just let people riot. And the quiet part that they never want to say out loud is that they believe that anybody who interferes with this process deserves whatever's coming to them. That's nothing short of Kyle just letting himself get killed would have made them satisfied. And they'll say that that's not true, but they were all dead silent when, literally a couple weeks before this, a man named Marquis Love, who was Black Lives Matter security, kicked an innocent man in the head like a soccer ball. But anyway, so U.S. District Judge Lynn Edelman on Wednesday dismissed motions filed by Rittenhouse and the government defendants seeking to dismiss the civil rights lawsuit. In allowing the case against Rittenhouse and others to proceed, the judge said that Anthony Huber's death, quote, could plausibly be regarded as having been proximately caused by the actions of the governmental defendants. Rittenhouse attorney Shane Martin said in a phone interview that it's important to note the ruling doesn't address the merits of the case and only allows it to proceed to the next phase, which is important because, the reason I learned about this is that the left is already trying to meme on it and talking about how, Kyle had said that it's time for people to be held accountable, and then they show articles like this as if now Kyle's finally going to be held accountable. The whole thing is just stupid. That's really the up and down of it, really. It's just stupid. At this point, I come back to what I said earlier. So the city's at fault. Why are the rioters never at fault? Why is it the city's fault that people chose to riot? Is it because of Jacob Blake? The cops shouldn't have shot Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake, the rapist, who had returned to the home of the woman he had raped, had an active warrant for said rape on him while violating her restraining order, got shot while trying to leave in her car with her kids in it. That guy, that's why we should just burn down, Kenosha. But again, a lot of this stuff is stuff you guys have already heard from me, but this is just asinine. So you're going to sue the city? What they should have done was arrested Anthony Huber and put him in jail, along with the rest of them, along with, Zeminski, who has an insanely long criminal record, is for some reason still walking around. All the people that are on their side of it. But again, the rioters are never at fault. Somehow. They didn't create the situation. Apparently the police did, by allowing them to do it. But as I've pointed out previously and many times, if the police did what was necessary to stop this riot, they wouldn't have been happy with that either. Anyway, Quote from Rittenhouse's attorney, "While we respect the judge's decision, we do not believe there is any evidence of a conspiracy, and we are confident, just as the Kenosha jury found, Kyle's actions that evening were not wrongful and were undertaken in self-defense." Attorneys and private investigators for John Huber spent over 100 hours trying to locate Rittenhouse, tracking down addresses in 7 states before they found the home of his mother and sister in Florida. The lawsuit was served on Rittenhouse's sister, who said that he wasn't home. Edelman said that was sufficient to qualify as being served. Rittenhouse had argued that the case against him should be dismissed because he wasn't properly served with the lawsuit. Edelman dismissed that, saying that Rittenhouse is almost certainly evading service. Rittenhouse has been deliberately cagey about his whereabouts, Edelman wrote. Although he denies living in Florida, he does not identify the place that he deems to be his residence. Well, could that have anything to do with the fact that the kid's been getting death threats from all over the country by stupid-ass Antifa types who will murder him if they got the opportunity? Could that be why? Could that have anything to do with it at all? I mean, you got to remember the controversy early on because of Kyle's, whereabouts and all that. Like, he's just supposed to tell everyone where he is at all times. When there were Antifa accounts literally trying to figure out what prison he was in so that they could get him in prison. Anyway, attorneys for the law enforcement and government officials being sued did not immediately return emailed messages seeking comment. The ruling puts Anthony Huber's family, quote, one step closer to justice for their son's needless death. Yeah, he didn't have to be there. That all anybody ever talks about is Kyle shouldn't have been there. Nobody ever talks about the fact the rioters should not have been there. Anyway, said Anand Swamithan, one of the attorneys for parents of John Huber and Karen Bloom. That's another thing. I remember, it's been a while since I looked at it, but there was an article where, I think, what was her name, Hannah? Huber's girlfriend had pointed out that it was odd to her that all of a sudden his family cared about him, because apparently he had been kicked out of the house and was homeless, so they didn't care about him then. But now all of a sudden that maybe there's a payday in the in the works, and we can sue somebody, then now all of a sudden we're interested, That was one of the things that Candace Owens' documentary about what happened with George Floyd was pointing out, was that the people that were immediately in George's life were invisible in this situation because he was living with other people. And then all of a sudden his family comes out of the woodwork to talk about how much they loved him or whatever, people he hadn't even talked to because they were looking to make some money. Anyway, quote, the Kenosha officials that created a powder keg situation by their actions tried to claim that they cannot be held accountable for their unconstitutional conduct. That argument was soundly rejected today. I'd love to know what the constitutional conduct is. That shit doesn't make any sense. Was it his right to be part of an active riot burning and destroying things? Because that's not protected under the First Amendment. If it was a peaceful protest, nobody would have cared. But what the conflict was about from the very beginning was that Rittenhouse and his group were preventing people from committing arson. Nobody was stopping them from peacefully protesting. They were pissed off because somebody was stopping them from burning shit. That's what the whole argument was about. Anyway, Rittenhouse was charged with homicide, attempted homicide, and reckless endangering for killing Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum and wounding a third person with an AR-style semi-automatic rifle in the summer of 2020 during a tumultuous night of protests over the shooting of a black man, Jacob Blake, by a white Kenosha police officer. Rittenhouse was acquitted of all charges in November 2021. After testifying, he acted in self-defense. Rittenhouse's actions became a flashpoint in the debate over guns, vigilantism, and racial injustice in the U.S. Rittenhouse went to Kenosha from his home in nearby Antioch, Illinois, after businesses were ransacked and burned in the nights that followed Blake's shooting. He joined other armed civilians on the streets, carrying a weapon authorities said was illegally purchased for him because he was underage. So this is, again, now they're still reporting on this, but this charge was dropped. This isn't true. That's why Dominic Black is not in jail. Anyway, Rittenhouse first killed Rosenbaum, 36, in the parking lot of an auto dealership, and as Rittenhouse ran from the scene, he stumbled and fell. Anthony Huber, 26, struck Rittenhouse with a skateboard and tried to disarm him. Rittenhouse fell to the ground and shot Anthony Huber to death and wounded demonstrator Gage Grosskreutz. They're leaving out an interesting point here. Anthony Huber literally had his hand on Rittenhouse's rifle, pulled it up towards himself, trying to take it from Kyle when the gun went off. But, don't let a little thing like the facts get in your way. Anyway, you know, and they put on here Rittenhouse first killed Rosenbaum. They leave out why. You know, they act as though, you know, he just shot him. You know, that's how we're going to report that, and we're going to continue to leave out Joshua Zeminski firing his pistol into the air before Kyle finally shot Rosenbaum. You know, don't let a little thing like, you know, details get in your way, right? This case is one of several ongoing civil lawsuits filed in the wake of the shootings. Grosskreutz last year filed a similar lawsuit against Rittenhouse, which went up in flames when he stupidly on the stand admitted that Rittenhouse didn't shoot him until he pointed a gun at him. Anyway, Rittenhouse has maintained a high public profile, particularly on social media, where he is an outspoken advocate for gun rights. He has nearly 1 million followers on Twitter and has spoken at conservative gatherings. So, anyway, this is what we're looking at now. The left, the far left, thinks this is a great victory because they think he's finally going to be held accountable, but they're still calling him a murderer over and over again. And they can never answer for the fact that, you know, are we just supposed to let people beat us up? Like, is that the story? Are we supposed to let people kill us? And unfortunately, that tends to be the answer they have. Like, whether it's this or it's the many videos that I've been seeing lately of, like, kids beating up their teachers or whatever, you know, like, their attitude really is that if you have been determined to be, you know, one of the oppressor class, then you are, you know, duty bound to allow anybody that is oppressed in your mind to beat you to their heart's content until they are satisfied. You're just supposed to sit there and take it. And it's just stupid. You know, all of this is just a big mess, and it did nothing but derail any of the sensible left's perspectives on things. You know, it didn't help anything, and it certainly didn't help, you know, any of the people that they believe they're trying to help, as far as, like, it's not going to affect the outcome of police shootings or anything like that. But anyway, so I just wanted to update you guys on this. Sorry that I haven't been around as much. There's been a lot going on at home. Don't forget that you have to click a separate tab to look at my live streams. I just did 2 really long live streams not long ago, some really high profile guests. You will get more content out of me. I know a couple of you guys have dropped me on Patreon, and I totally understand why. That's going to change. Part of the problem is that my son has been training to be a wrestler since he was 6 years old. He's undefeated. He's ranked number 4. And, you know, his season has been kind of rocky just due to bad stuff going on at home. And there was also this abrupt move where we had to move like an hour away from our previous residence. There was all kinds of drama going on at home. And it's been very hard for me to keep my mindset right to be able to do what you guys expect of me here on V Radio. But if you would be willing to go ahead and continue to support the show, you can go to my hy.page/vradio. And there you can catch me on Patreon, PayPal, Subscribestar. You know, and hopefully things will be good here. If you guys have anything specific you want me to talk about, don't hesitate to ask. You know, let me know what you guys want to see, what you want to hear about, any guests that you want me to bring on. And I'm still researching my previous projects. I'm going to be making a documentary called OK Groomer, where I'm just going to put to bed this whole nonsense that children are not being sexualized. And it's going to take a while. I've done a lot of the research already, and it's going to be kind of graphic. I actually think in order to even get this thing to stay up, I'm probably going to have to put it on like BitChute or something, and then just do like a theatrical trailer for it here on YouTube. Because I'm putting all of the graphic footage there is of children at highly sexualized drag shows. I'm going to put them all in one place. And again, I'm going to put this shit to bed because I'm sick of people lying about it. It's happening. It's real. And I'm tired of being gaslit about it. I have a child whose life was shattered, you know, by a pedophile. I'll be damned if I'm going to stand by and let that stuff go down. But it means that if you guys want to see it, you're probably going to have to be willing to go somewhere other than YouTube. I'll upload it here. I have no idea what'll happen because, like, some of the videos that I have are so hot that Facebook auto-detects them and deletes them immediately. And they get taken down even from TikTok sometimes. They were very hard to find, so I had to screen capture them before they get taken down again. But other than that, thanks again for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to join us in Discord, Telegram, Facebook. You can do all of that at hy.page/vradio. And I look forward to talking to you again. Oh, and Strategic Eyes and I are planning a show. We're going to watch the Dr. Phil episode about Abolish the Police. It's just been a question of setting up the right date. I was on Good Logic not long ago. And Adam Friended came on and we had a bit of an exchange. They still won't ever get back to me about my counterpoints to them about Iraq. And they claim now that the reason they're not is because nobody wants to hear about Iraq anymore. But I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that I just totally crushed everything you guys said for an hour. And I did lose my temper a little bit with Adam because I'm just sick of it. The war is something I'm not interested in joking about. It's not something that I'm interested in taking lightly. I think part of the problem is for a lot of people is that the war to them was just something that, you know, happens somewhere else. But I know people who've put guns in their mouths and ended their lives. You know, I know Iraqis who are directly affected. It's not like somewhere else to me. So thanks again for tuning in, folks.